You're listening to the CKNW Saturday Morning News with Jill Bennett.
My next guest has come up with a program to help people deal with or prevent or heal from depression and anxiety. It's all documented and explained in his book, Medical Wellness, A Spiritual Journey. Joining me on the line is Dr. Hamdi El-Rayes. Dr. El-Rayes, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit. We're talking about mental wellness and mental health and about a book that you have released. But just as I said that, I know you've talked about the difference between the two. What is the difference between mental health and mental wellness?
Well, it is very important to distinguish between the two. Mental health, the medical professional use it, is defined as the absence of a major mental health condition. That means if a person doesn't have symptoms of a specific psychological dysfunction, it means they are mentally healthy. So we are either mentally healthy or mentally unhealthy. And so if you compare that to mental wellness goes beyond mental health. Mental wellness is shifting a focus away from illness to a holistic approach that emphasizes a view of the entire being and the ability to reach peak psychological health. And that's what Abraham Maslow defines as self-actualization.
And talk a little bit, the book that you have released, Mental Wellness, A Spiritual Journey. Do we deal, or does the book talk about, is it depression? Is it different types of mental illness?
Yeah, it basically addresses depression and anxiety and addiction, but it talks mainly on mental wellness, and we need to emphasize the word mental wellness. We need to shift our focus from mental health to mental wellness, so we can extend beyond the absence of symptoms of mental illness.
And do you find it something as well that a lot of people think the only solution is because it's a chemical imbalance, the only solution is prescriptions?
Well, as a matter of fact, there are other opinions that contradict with that. Other opinions say it is the chemical imbalance is caused by the depression. And medication may help alleviate the symptoms of depression, but it doesn't take care of the underlying issues that cause the depression. And that's where the role of this program in the mental wellness book is basically helping people complement the medical services and help them to heal rather than to overcome just the symptoms of the illness.
Do we have any idea how many people are dealing with mental illness?
Where we have, usually it is about 10% of the population dealing with depression alone. So it is a larger, and the potential for someone getting depressed is about 17 to 20% in the general population.
And is it something, it seems that mental illness as well, it seems to be something that unlike a physical illness where you can get better, there seems to be the stigma attached to it that you are always going to be dealing with it.
Well, that's the point, is where we started the term mental health. It is possible that the good news in this book, you can heal. It is like any other illness. You can heal from it if you follow the program I mentioned in this book. It's been tried. I have developed this program in the past 20 years. I have applied it in my charity for now. This is our 6th year in the Mental Wellness Center. So it is something tried, proved, studied, evaluated by prominent psychiatrists and physicians in BC. So the only thing is we are a little one step ahead of the medical profession.
It does have the endorsements, or it's been talked about, as you mentioned, by some high-profile doctors in this province. Obviously, we don't have time to go through the entire book, but talk a little bit. Is it spirituality, or what is it about this program that's different from how we've treated mental illness in the past?
That's a very good point. In treating mental illness, we focused on medication. You get rid of the symptoms, you're mentally healthy, you move on. But the only problem is that 50% of the people who get who have a first bout of depression, they have more potential, 50% more than the average population of getting depressed again. So even if you get a second bout of depression, it increases 70%. You get a third bout. So that's where the stigma come from. But this program offers healing because it incorporates spirituality in it. And if you look into incorporating spirituality, it was ignored in the medical research since the 17th century. And that's why there is no mention of it in the medical literature. As a matter of fact, it started paying attention to it about 25 years ago, when we started seeing the value of incorporating spirituality in treating mental illness and generally any illness. It has been found that spirituality helps people heal. That it causes there is less suicide. People heal from addiction using spirituality. So researchers found we have to study that, and that's where it started. It's about 25 years ago. It was almost excluded from the medical literature in the past century because of the influence of Sigmund Freud, who said that a kind of religion is a kind of mental illness. It's a kind of psychosis. So it became a pariah to talk about mental, especially for psychiatrists. People who got training with using the Freudian theory, 40% became atheists just going through the training, who came from religious background. And he didn't influence just the psychiatrist. He influenced the whole culture. If you look into the self-help literature in the past century, it's focusing basically on Freudian theory. We're seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, or seeking power. And it is some of the researchers try to kind of address that. Abraham Maslow talked about the how we can seek wellness rather than illness in his theory of human motivation. And also Dr. Frankl, who developed the logotherapy, basically saying we have to have a life purpose to be able to overcome mental illnesses and be able to survive the difficulty we face in life. And maybe I should kind of emphasize about the definition of spirituality. Spirituality is not religion. Religions may institute some spirituality, but you can be religious and non-spiritual, and vice versa, you can be spiritual and non-religious. And when I did my research, I focused on what is really being studied in the literature that proves scientifically that it can help people heal and help them reach their potential. And I found a few elements that we need to get to know ourselves. This is very, very important. We are so busy with our life to the point where we don't even know who we are. And knowing ourselves is a first step into spirituality, is to know who we are. What are our gifts, our talents? What we really like, and that's one thing that we miss, because in our growing from childhood to adulthood, we are subjected to so much conditioning. We're conditioned at birth, at home, at school, molded by the school program, by peers influence us. So the culture itself and society influence us, and we end up with acting differently from what our original nature was. And that influence, that affects us psychologically, and this, in my belief, is one of the major things that we need to address, is helping people to get back to their original nature, who they were originally, rather than who they pretend to be or who act to be. And this is a first step, is knowing ourselves identifying our uniqueness. Every one of us is unique. And you and me, everyone is unique and created a very unique science. You know, there is no fingerprint similar to one another. Everyone has his own, even physically, fingerprint. In so many aspects of us is so unique, and we ignore our uniqueness and try to fit in, and that's one of the reasons. So first step in spirituality is knowing who we are. Second step is basically getting back to our authentic self, going through self-examination and awareness to know who we originally are and live that authentic self that we were created to be, and be aware of our connection to the universe. Then there is another step, is that we really need to believe there is a higher power. And the higher power could be defined the way you feel. Some people call it God, some people call it the universe, call it nature, call it whatever. But there is a higher power. We can't neglect it or ignore it. And surrendering to that higher power is very important. And this is a step. If we surrender sounds like negative in our language, but it is really a powerful tool to help people get rid of anxiety and depression. If we surrender to accept whatever happens to us and live with it, and whatever happens, I would accept it. That means I have no worries, because I am accepting whatever the outcome of the next event would be.
All right, Dr. Reyes, or El Reyes, sorry, but we're right out of time. We could go on and on and on about this, but thank you so much. The book is called Mental Wellness, A Spiritual Journey. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.